Hey there everybody, this is Patrick from Lost in Games. Today we're going to be taking a look at Dragon Castle by CMON Games or CMON Games, depending on who you are and how you like to pronounce it. So CMON Games is known for their massive, beautiful games like Zombicide and Rising Sun, huge boxes, extra boxes, all filled with miniatures and markers, and it's just a massive Ameritrash game, and that's what they're known for. But this is a more subdued production, and honestly, it befits the theme of this particular game. You should not be ignoring this game because it's not one of those gigantic towers of plastic goodness. This game is beautiful, it is thematic, and it is exactly what it needs to be, which is something that can sometimes be very rare in the game industry. So we are going to take a closer look at what is inside this game. We're going to provide a brief overview of how the game works, and then I will come back with some final thoughts. Thank you. Okay, so I have Dragon Castle set up for a walkthrough. I'm going to give you a tour of the game itself, show you the different pieces. Right now I only have it set up to show the main game board and one player and the various player aids, but we'll talk through that as I go through it. The basic premise of the game is that there was an ancient emperor who built this massive castle called a Dragon Castle, and this is it. And it is built out of Mahjong style tiles. You are a leader of a new city, and you are competing against the other players to steal blocks from the Dragon Castle to build up your cities and make it the most impressive of all by the end of the game. And how does that translate? It means if you build it right and you build it smart and you build it cool, you'll get the most victory points and you will win the game. So in the main, right now I have it set up. This is like the core setup for 2 players. There are multiple setup cards that you can use. And then actually on the back of this particular one is a wide open one. So part of the fun is after you've tried out all of the setup cards that exist in the game, you can start building your own. And there's rules in the rule book for how you can do that and build it the right way so that you have a great game. So right here, this is basically the heart and soul. This is the Dragon Castle. Every player is going to have one of these tiles where they are going to build. It also has a grid that you will be putting tiles in intelligent ways, and then this is called the temple track. This and this pile here, these are temples. These are things that as you move the tiles onto the board here, you will occasionally have the ability to put these temples, and these will help you get points at the end of the game. These are the victory point markers. Throughout the game, you'll be doing things that'll maybe give you 1 point, 2 point, or 3 point. You'll have a pile of these at the end of the game, which everybody will add up very quickly and easily, and you will know how you are doing and if you have won the game. Every player is also going to get a couple of cards, reference cards, which goes through here are the 4 actions, and then also here is how you score points. And then last but not least, there are 2 other sets of cards. There are these cards, which are called the Spirit cards, and there are these cards, which are called the Dragon cards. And I'm not going to show you those right now. I'll talk about them at the very end of this overview, but the short of it is everybody who gets one of each of these cards, it is going to affect the game in a certain way. It is going to allow you to break the rules in some way or bend the rules or do something cool so that the game is constantly different every time you play. But I'm going to go ahead and take these away because we're not going to use them in the overview. Okay, on any given turn, for most of the game, there are only 3 actions that you can take. At a certain point of the game, there will actually be a 4th action, but we'll cover that in a moment. So the first action that you can take is that you select a pair of tiles. Your first tile has to come from the highest level of the game. So in the way we have the Dragon Castle set up right now, it is one of these 12 tiles. The second tile has to have the exact same symbol as the tile you took. And it can come from any level of the game. And here's the Mahjong S. So for example, if I take this one that has 5 yellow dots, I take that from the front, and I take from there, I have now taken those 2 tiles. Okay? I'll put those back for you for a moment. The second action you will do is you can take one tile, and that also has to come from the highest level or the top floor of the castle. And we'll take this black one. And then you can also take a temple and put it on your temple track. And you'll place this on your grid, and I'll explain that in a moment. Okay? The third thing you can do is you can discard any tile from the topmost floor. So if you really don't like all those tiles, and this will very happen as the floor begins to have reduced tiles, you are going to have less choices of the tiles that you take, right? And so at some point you may just be like, hey, I'm going to discard a tile. And if you do that, not only do you discard a tile, and it just kind of sits alongside your board and you're never going to use it again, but you also get a victory point when you do that. So there is a value to doing that. Not only does it keep the board moving, but it also gives you some points. So the Mahjong tiles themselves, they're beautiful, they have very high quality. They're different colors, and so what's important to get is the color is a reference to the rarity. So the most common colored tiles you're going to see in the game are the yellow tiles, and the red tiles, and the green tiles. So there's going to be lots of choices to match symbols on those 3 colors, and they're referred to as faction tiles. Then we have the blue tiles, and we have the black tiles, and we have the pink or purple, however you want to call it, tiles. Those are special tiles. And they go, the blue and the black, there's the same number of those tiles, but there's far less of them, literally by 8 tiles, than the common tiles. And then the most rare are the purple dragon tiles. So you are going to find that the purples and the blues and the blacks are kind of fought over because they're more rare. When it comes time to determining points, they are going to give you more points. So once you have made your selection, so we're going to go ahead and say, the other thing about picking up a tile, just so you know, is you can only pick up a tile if it is free. And what do I mean by that? A free tile is free on its long edge, not its short edge, right? So in this scenario, if we remove these 2 tiles, this one's open because it has a long edge free. This one's open because it has a long edge free. And these 2 are not because they only have short edges free. And this is a tough one to remember, especially for youngsters. My youngest son sometimes forgets this. If for some reason this were to be taken away in another person's turn, now these 2 would be available. So when you pick up a tile, you have to make sure that the first one comes from the top row, and the second one comes from is free and can be from any row. Okay? So what do you do when you get these tiles? So let's go ahead and talk about some tiles that I could get. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick, on my turn, say I pick this purple one, which is one of the rare dragons. And this one, it's free because it's on its long edge. I'm going to put that one right there. And I am going to be placing tiles on my board. And the goal is to be creating as many runs of connected tiles as possible. But you have to do it smartly and you have to do it carefully. Because I'm just going to show you as an example, if I have 3 and I have a 4th one, and I add a 4th one, any run of connected tiles that connects that is 4 or more is going to count as forces a point score. So in this case, I would get points because I had 4 tiles. And what I would do is I would turn them over and I would get the points for them. And I'm going to look at this little card here, and this is going to tell me how many points I get. So for example, if I have a run of 4, it is going to give me 2 points. If I run a 5, 3, 6, 5, you're going to get a lot of points the more tiles. So it becomes very important as you build these things to build them smart. These themselves are purple, so there's not a lot of purple tiles in the game. So building a larger run there isn't necessarily going to be as possible because the more players you have, the more competition you're going to be having for those. But what you would want to be doing is you want to be laying tiles down in smart ways so that when you do place that final colored tile in on your turn, you can lock and get a much bigger point value. Now the problem is everybody else is trying to do the same thing, and everybody's looking at everybody else's board, so they are going to know, hey, Patrick is going for purples. I need to steal those purples from them. And they need to decide, do I want to steal those purples? Because if they pick up a purple and put it on their board and they don't need it, they're kind of wasting real estate and wasting the ability to make points. So there's a lot of decision making in how to place these tiles. The other thing that happens when you place a tile is that depending on the color, you also may choose to put on a temple top. So if I have 4 here, I can look at this card and it says, hey, if you lay a purple, you are allowed to lay 2 temple tops. So I'll flip these over and I could lay temple tops. These temples will give you bonus points at the end of the game. And the higher these temples are in altitude, the more points you're going to get at the end of the game. So you really do need to be thinking, how do I lay tiles? How do I put temples on? As you begin adding more tiles on and trying to create more sets, you will be doing fun little things like this. And boom, now I have completed a green one. And we will flip these over. It's worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to give me 3 points. And if I look at green here on my cheat sheet, it says, hey, if you have a free temple, which we're going to pretend I do, if you have a free temple, you can put it anywhere. So the smart place is to put it as high as possible, because at the very end of the game, every temple you have placed of height 1 gives you 1 point, every temple of height 2 gives you 2 points, and every temple of height 3 gives you 3 points. So you are going to be laying these tiles in these fantastic combinations to maximize your points. You are going to be watching other players. You're going to be looking to see what they're going for, looking to see, you may just choose, hey, I know that my son Alex really wants this black tile. I don't need it, but I'm going to pick it up and put it here. And I may not use it here, but after I have scored some points and flipped some tiles, maybe I will build out, and maybe I won't. Maybe I'm just having fun tanking his own little city there, right? So it's a meditative, it's a competitive, the pieces are beautiful. It's a really good game. And so eventually you're going to make your way through and you're going to drop down to the second level, and then eventually you'll get down to the last level. Once you get down to the last level, this is where the 4th action comes in. So I'm just going to remove all these pieces just to kind of show you what that board would look like. So here we go. We are at the last level, and we'll say we've picked the crap out of this. And now, when you're on the last level, the player has a choice of not only doing the standard 3 actions, which is take 2 tiles, take 1 tile and a temple, right? Or remove a tile and get a point. They can also pick up one of these. And when you pick up one of these, this is letting everybody know the game is about to end. So it's worth 2 points, which is awesome. Everybody sees that. If somebody picks up this second tile, it triggers the final round of the game. And the final round of the game means wherever you are in the current turn, whoever has that first turn, everybody gets a final turn to make sure that everybody has the same amount of turns. And so you may be picking up pieces and rapidly trying to finish some set. You may choose to pick up one of these and get a couple points because you don't have anything else better to do. And once that happens, it's time to add up all your points. And you will be counting up all of your victory points. You will then be counting up getting bonus points based on the temples and their altitudes. And then whoever has the most points wins. So that is an overview of Dragon Castle. And again, once you've learned the base game, you're going to start introducing these cards that will change the rules. Like there's one card that's, remember that rule I said you can only pick up a free tile if it is free on its log edge. Well, there's actually a card in there that'll affect the game that you can pick it up if it's long or short. There's another card in there that basically says you don't have to match the symbols on the tiles, you only have to match the colors. So every game can be strategically different depending on what cards are selected and which ones are put down. Here's a great example of an end game card condition where you will get points based on how you line up your tiles on your map. So it is a fantastic game. I'm going to move on to my final thoughts. I think you can already tell I like this game. Okay, so on to my final thoughts. So from a component perspective, like I said, this is one of those games where it is just perfect. The art on the tiles themselves and the cards and the board is stylistic. It's beautiful. It's actually perfect. It doesn't do too much. It doesn't do too little. It is in balance. It is perfectly done from a components perspective. I would say it is triumphant from a components perspective. The rule book is a really, really good rule book. It's a deceptively simple game, and sometimes deceptively simple games are really hard to explain, but it's a beautiful rule book that walks you through how to do absolutely everything. It takes its time. Sometimes in games, they cut corners on rule books in the name of space. I understand why they do that from a financial perspective, but sometimes figuring these things out can be so annoying that it can affect your view of a game. This game just takes its time and lays the whole thing out. It also has a walkthrough of every single card that you have, so that there's no ambiguity on how to do those things. And then also I did mention setting up the Dragon Castle. It tells you not only how to do it, for your first game, but I'm just going to slide this over here and show you this other side is an open template for how you want to build your Dragon Castle. And we have great fun when we play this. We play this like 2 or 3 times at a time, and we may play one of the standard castles first, and then it's almost like a little mini fight. Hey, who gets to set up the Dragon Castle and be creative about it? So it turns into this very creative experience as well. And they give you some sample Dragon Castles that you can make, which is fantastic. Love the little references for every player on the back of the rule book. There's the references as well. This game, I think, is triumphant. I adore this game. It's a very family-friendly game. It is a game that everyone in the family will sit down and play, and it is one of those simple yet strategic yet complex games. So there you have it. Dragon Castle by CMON Games. You should go out there and you should put this on your game shelf. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and don't forget to also get lost in games. Have a good day.